Yeah, so today I'm just going to talk about a book called 1000 Splendid Suns. I'm just going to tell you about how I felt about the characters, about the plot, and all that. This is a pretty gut wrenching book. It's a pretty gripping story, to be honest. It's a story that spans decades of lives of Marian and Lala, and we see how they grew up, what all hardships they faced, and everything. Even the beginning of the story, the way Mariam loses her confidence in her father by the way she waits outside his house whole night just to be rewarded by sending her to Kabul to be married to a guy who's at that point 30 years older than her. It was too much for at least me to handle in the first two chapters. Um, uh, so I have a friend who I often discuss about who with whom I often have discussions about feminism and all. It's mostly her speaking. I'm just listening, more majorly because I have nothing to speak. But I had the privilege to be brought up in a pretty great family. So whenever she used to tell me that no, Gaurav, you don't really know how the situation is like outside your outside your four walls. I was like, how bad could it be? If this book is anything to go by, pretty bad. Far worse than I imagined, and I don't feel pretty pleased with myself. I mean, I was pretty oblivious. I am pretty oblivious to things happening around me. So yeah. Anyways, so yeah, there is this point in the story where when Mariam and Rashid, they're newly married, and Rashid is walking around the town. He's getting her all the nice things, whatever jewelry she wants, whatever clothes she wants, wherever she wants to go. He's doing all that. In the beginning itself, we realize that Rashid is an orthodox person with his rules, but I had the hope that maybe, like, still Mariam had a chance to be happy after all the shit that she had been through with Rashid. Maybe it wasn't in a. Maybe it was me just wishing for it, but if you read the story and the story is anything to go by, exact opposite of it, that happened. The first time Rashid raised her hand on Miriam, I was just reading it, and the only opinion that I had, like the only thoughts that were going in my mind were like, is this really happening? For those who don't know about the story, um, when, as I told earlier, Rashid is 40 and Mariam is 14 when she gets married, and she tries to have a kid by 15, which she miscarries, and then they try again, and she miscarries again, and this cycle continues. And I thought Rashid would be there to support her. The only time she needed, the main time she needed support, but he just grew angry at her, and it was frustrating to see. Yeah, it couldn't believe that I was reading that every time they had a child and the child was, they weren't able to bring the child to life, he looked with her with a displeased side, like he didn't really want her around him. And that's pretty absurd. How can you do that? But enough of my rant. Moving on. Lala is one character that is the hero of the story, I believe. I think Lala's life and Lala's life and Mariam's life, they're on the opposite ends of the spectrum. They meet at one point, but before meeting at that point, they're like exact opposites. So if you see Lala, she has a loving father who wants to get her educated. She has good friends. She is topper of her class, and she's not afraid to back down. And if you look at Mariam, she is a girl whose mother committed suicide, whose father married her to a guy 30 years older than her, who is not able to have a child. Eve, and the funny part is, like, when this particular line comes, right, like they were not able to have the child and like she has a miscarriage, she does not, in this situation there is no one to blame, but the first thing that comes to her mind was, like, she was pissed at Rashid for a split second, but it was just sad to see how quickly she started to blame herself for the miscarriage. And if you look at Layla, she has that fighter spirit. Even when she was just newlywed with Rashid, she had that I don't care attitude. She was she always fought for what she believed in. And like, I think Mariam was actually like that. She fought to see her father. She waited the whole night outside his mansion on the road to see him. I mean, that is a fighting spirit if I have seen one. But just the shock of what her father did, I think it just broke her. She kind of got back together when she got married and Rashid was taking care of her. But seeing Rashid being agonized at her also broke her even more. Like, I remember there's this paragraph where she's praying again and again to God, like, thank you for letting me having this, for allowing me to have this child. And like, she's so happy. She says that maybe this is the way that I'll finally achieve happiness in life, but that was not so. I also felt a sense of dread throughout the story. It's a pretty grounded story, so you only get to know what the characters know. And even then, like, the larger world events, like it happens in Kabul and all the civil war that's going on, and even before that, the war with Soviets, it's shown in a pretty interesting way, where it's shown as either as, like, as gossip between two colleagues, or as a radio message. Yeah, so that was